Welcome to The Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm Brian.
Nintendo unleashed its quarterly earnings report on the public this morning, or as it's better known, a list of all the ways Switch is taking over the world, because that's kind of what it read like.
Yeah, and while the earnings report includes the requisite, here's the jaw-dropping amount of games and Switches we've sold.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But it's also got some pretty big shakeups for the company, like the fact that Nintendo's president's stepping down.
Yeah, no big deal. Kimishima, we won't miss you at all.
Just need a new president.
I'm gonna miss you a bunch. Maybe more interesting for gamers, though. This is more, directly relevant to us and what we may or may not get our hands on. The bold declaration by Nintendo, the company expects to move another 20 million Switches by March 2019. That's a lot.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a reason for that. We'll get into it. So that overall would bring the total of Switches up to nearly 38 million units sold worldwide by the end of their next fiscal year, which is gonna end next March. And it's a projection that only really makes sense if they got some major titles planned between now and then to move all that hardware, because they got us early adopters. Now they have to go beyond.
The casuals. Major titles, they're like, Pokemon?
Maybe, yeah, something like that would work.
Yeah.
We already know about Smash Brothers.
It's true. So, yeah, it's possible this projection giving us an idea of the specific release window of one or maybe both of those titles.
Oh, and also, by the way, the new president served on the board of the Pokemon Company. It's all connected.
First, though, the earnings report itself, it was chock full of some really staggering numbers for Nintendo from the last quarter.
If you were worried that they were gonna fail, shut down, stop doing any hardware, and just like do a Sega and start putting out software on other platforms, they won't.
Sorry. Yeah. We got some updates from their software sales, with Breath of the Wild setting franchise records. It sold nearly 8.5 million copies on the Switch, 10 million total if you count the Wii U. That makes it the top-selling game ever if you don't count remasters, but we're pretty sure Breath of the Wild will get one of those too eventually.
Give it a couple generations.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe outsold the Wii U version in less than a year. Super Mario Odyssey passed 10 million sold in just a few months, and Splatoon 2 made quite a splash with 6 million in sales. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah. The Super Mario Odyssey thing, that means basically about 2 out of 3 Switch owners bought a copy of Super Mario Odyssey. That's a very impressive attach rate. Not that it's surprising for Mario. The thing that interests me about Zelda is, do you remember not long after the Switch came out and everyone was having trouble getting their hands on the hardware, there was a statistic that came out that said more copies of Zelda for Switch had been sold than actual Switches. It was more than a 100% attach rate.
Who are those people? Why was that, do you think?
Two reasons. It could have been one, people who pre-ordered and who bought the game and were just waiting for their Switch, awesome. Or 2 people who maybe bought a collector's edition and didn't want to touch any of that, and then had like a different version to actually play.
I want that map. Yeah, I still want that map. In total, though, Nintendo says it moved more than 63 million games for the Switch, with 12, that's crazy, 12 titles passing the 1 million mark all by themselves. That's definitely impressive. Just as impressive, the SNES Classic has sold more than 5.2 million copies.
So that's why no one could find one. Although they're in stock now. I checked this morning. You can get them just about anywhere, which is why, remember with the NES Classic, you heard about the shortage until they stopped making them. With the SNES Classic, you heard about the shortage and then you just stopped hearing anything because it was done. Of course, the bigger news from the earnings report is the retirement of current president Tatsumi Kimishima. Nintendo says that Kimishima is going to retire June 28th.
Yeah, you might remember Kimishima took over after the much-loved Satoru Iwata died in 2015. And Kimishima, only the 5th president in the history of the company, and while his tenure was short, it was definitely eventful with the rise of the Switch that pretty much brought Nintendo back to the forefront of the industry.
So he's kind of going out on a high note.
Big time.
As for number 6, the new Nintendo president will be Shuntaro Furukawa, who joined the company in 1994 and has held high-level positions in various parts of the company since. Interestingly, Furukawa also served on the board of the Pokemon Company, which matters to us very much right now, and in 2016 he was put in charge of the global marketing team for Nintendo.
That connection to the Pokemon Company, it might not mean anything, but there's definitely
We'd like it to.
Yeah, I would, definitely. But there's definitely a big rumor that the next Pokemon game, which is specifically being made for the Switch, will be coming sooner rather than later.
All right, so I don't know that we know for sure it is the next one, but they did say they were working on a mainline Pokemon game for the Switch.
Yeah,
so
good point.
we're certainly hoping
Good
it's the
Eddy,
next one.
yeah.
While this Switch has sold a bunch of copies already, it's nearly 18 million units, and that's a lot. If it's gonna sell another 20 in the next year, it's gotta have really big name franchises to move that many Switches, and a Pokemon game would fit that bill quite nicely.
As for the 20 million Switches projection, we've had an idea recently that this is the number Nintendo's been targeting. President Kimishima hinted at it in an interview in December, and last fall we had rumors from tech production pipelines that Nintendo had recently doubled production of the console. But if they're saying it to investors like this now, that's another level entirely. That's setting it in stone.
I wonder if that doubled run-on production includes the new Tegra processors.
Yeah, the hacked versions.
So the interesting thing about all of this is just how confident Nintendo is. It's gonna sell that many units. Keep in mind, that's more Switches than Nintendo sold in its launch year. Again, nearly 18 million.
This was a good year.
This was a great year. Nintendo had a mainline Zelda, Mario Kart. It came out swinging with its first party franchises. So to go beyond that, it's gotta take something special.
ARMS 2, yeah. But it's also important to recognize, all right, maybe not ARMS 2. It's important to recognize that they probably would have sold more than that 18 million if it wasn't for all those hardware shortages. Still,
but that's speculation.
Yeah, exactly. Still, we don't have anything on the calendar this year, save for the recently announced Super Smash Bros. Switch title that comes close to matching the pedigree of last year's releases.
You're gonna make some Smash fans angry, saying being like, that's not enough.
I love
Smash. Is everything.
But yeah.
Look, Smash.
You need more.
In and of itself, major franchise for the company.
Yeah.
No arguments there. The latest release saw a combined 15 million in sales on the Wii U and 3DS. So that was a lot.
Yeah, so it would stand to reason that Nintendo knows it's got something they haven't announced for this year and it's just waiting in the wings. According to the most recent earnings report, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon shipped 7.51 million units, and those are basically re-releases of the previous year's Pokemon on the 3DS, and that's on top of the 16 million that the original version, Sun and Moon, sold the year before. It still sells a lot of units.
A lot, and that's the line of thinking from around the industry as well. We're not the only ones making that speculation. If everyone is making it. NPD analyst Matt Piscatella wrote on Twitter, with Nintendo's announced 20 million fiscal year unit ship target for Switch, I'm just not sure how that happens without Pokemon in calendar 2018. Maybe there are some other surprises in the works, but they'd have to be of the jaw-dropping variety. Bring back F-Zero. That'll do it.
Oh, so it's us saying it.
More F-Zero.
It's us saying it and Matt Piscatella. So
yeah, we're the only ones.
We've had loads of speculation previously that Pokemon is targeting something by the end of this year. Earlier this year, you might remember we wrote about it. Rumors flew that the European translations for the game were being planned to be completed between April and June of this year, so that could leave enough time for a holiday release.
Which would be perfect for moving a bunch of Switch hardware.
Yep. People saw job listings for localization editors for languages like Spanish, German, Italian, French. So that's a sign that it might be coming.
Yeah, nothing's confirmed yet, but those are some pretty tasty tidbits.
There have also been rumors last week or so that Nintendo's E3 booth is going to be not only Smash Brothers, but Pokemon themed.
And look, last year the theme was New Donk City, so they went all in on Mario Odyssey. The year before that was all in on Zelda. So if they're going Pokemon, that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah. That was the whole thing about the Pokemon theme to the E3 booth. That was thanks to a video from YouTuber GU King of Heart, who said that his source told him that this year's Nintendo booth, it's gonna kind of a dual theme, Super Smash and Pokemon.
Nice. So needless to say, we're seeing a lot of potential alleged evidence that the Pokemon Switch game could be coming out sooner rather than later. This year would be great.
Yeah. However, Pokemon doesn't necessarily have to ship this year, 2018, to help Nintendo reach that target. The company says it's projecting that 20 million additional Switches to be sold by the end of March 2019. So we could be looking at first quarter of 2019 rather than by the holidays of this year.
But also holidays sell so much stuff.
That's when you would release a new game.
Theoretically. Well, in the earnings report, Nintendo does have a Pokemon game listed, just as it has in the past, for 2018 or beyond, which is the least specific they could get because that just literally means all of time left. There's also a big chance the company is pushing to get the game out by the end of the year if they can because of that holiday period.
Yeah.
but I don't know, they could settle for first quarter of next year. If they have to, it will still move units, and they know that.
2018 to the heat death of the universe.
Yes.
Yeah, at some point. But yeah, that's all we know at this point. If Nintendo's going to sell 20 million more Switches in the next year, though, it makes sense that they're going to plan on a new Pokemon game to help pull that off. We might know more at E3 in a few weeks, so stay tuned.
Yeah, what do you guys think about this latest Nintendo earnings report? What games do you think they're gonna need to get 20 million Switches out this year? Let us know in the comments.
And for all your Nintendo news, be sure to like this video. If you're new around here, subscribe to the know. Like the fact that Nintendo President Kimishima is stepping.
And
what's his first name? What's Kimishima?
Kimishima. Interestingly, if we recall, I only said half his name there. Interesting.
To help Nintendo reach this target. That's because the company says it's projecting that let me try that again.